In the heart of Willowwish Wood, where ancient trees whispered secrets to the wind, a strange stillness fell one evening. The moon forgot to rise, and the stars, those tiny winking friends of the forest, were nowhere to be seen. The sky was a vast, empty blanket of black. High in the boughs of a mighty oak, Siggy the squirrel hugged his bushy tail, his nose twitching with worry. "This isn't right," he chittered to himself. "The stars are the forest nightlight. Bedtime feels all wrong without them." On the forest floor below, Rena the deer stood motionless, her large ears swiveling to catch any sound, but there was none. The usual chorus of crickets and the gentle rustle of leaves had vanished. It was as if the entire wood was holding its breath. "The silence is loud," she said softly, her voice a mere whisper in the gloom. From a cozy burrow nestled among the roots of the same oak, a tiny figure emerged. It was Yellaw the hedgehog. Her quills, usually a soft, shimmering blue, pulsed with a dim, uncertain light. "It feels like the night has lost a memory," she murmured, her small voice full of a wisdom older than her years. A sudden splash broke the silence from the nearby river. Max the monkey, his fur dripping, scrambled onto the bank. He fiddled with a small, peculiar-looking compass from the tool belt he always wore. "I've checked the river currents," he announced, shaking his head. "They're flowing backward. The water itself seems lost." Just then, a long, lonely howl drifted through the trees. It wasn't a cry of hunger, but one of concern. Finn, a young wolf, stepped out from the shadows, his golden eyes scanning the worried group. "Without the stars to guide them," he said, his voice low and serious, "travelers can't find their way home. My pack is scattered." Before anyone could respond, a whisper of wind passed overhead. With a silent beat of enormous wings, a great horned owl landed gracefully on a branch above them. It was Madame Hoots, the keeper of the wood's oldest tailies. Her amber eyes, which seemed to hold the warmth of 1,000 sunrises, surveyed the empty sky. "The stars are not gone," she said, her voice as calm and deep as the forest itself. "They are hiding, hiding," squeaked Siggy, his anxiety making his tail twitch faster. "Hiding from what?" Madame Hoots turned her head, her gaze piercing the deepest part of the wood. "From a shadow that feeds on forgotten light. A creature made of things we choose to let go." She gestured with a wing. "Come, there is an old path we must walk." The friends followed her, their small group a beacon of determination in the oppressive dark. They moved along a trail overgrown with moss and forgotten by time. The air grew colder, and shimmering, ghost-like images began to drift around them, like mist made of memories. Rena saw a flicker of herself as a tiny, wobbly-legged fawn, her mother nudging her to stand. She saw the fear and the struggle, a memory she hadn't visited in years. Beside her, Finn saw a vision of a night he'd been terrified. A time he wanted to run, but chose to stand his ground to protect a younger cub. Max saw a montage of his inventions, gears, levers, and wings all falling apart, each one a lesson he had tried to bury. These were not just memories, but feelings of failure, fear, and weakness, the very things they had tried to forget. The path ended in a clearing, unnaturally silent and cold. In the center, a formless, swirling shadow hovered just above the ground. It writhed and pulsed, drawing in the last vestiges of light and hope from the air around it. It was a void, a living emptiness. "It consumes what we forget," Madame Hoots explained, her voice barely a whisper. "Our forgotten dreams, our broken promises, our abandoned hopes. It grows stronger on the light we no longer claim." The friends looked at the shadow and then at each other. They understood. The darkness wasn't an invader. It was a part of them, grown hungry and wild. Yellaw the hedgehog took a brave step forward. Her blue quills, which had been so dim, began to glow with a steady, determined light. "Then we must remember," she declared, her voice small but ringing with conviction. "We must remember everything." And so they did. One by one, they faced the forgotten parts of themselves. Siggy closed his eyes and remembered the very first acorn he'd ever buried. It was small and runny, and the other squirrels had laughed, telling him it would never grow. But he had planted it anyway, with all the hope a little squirrel could muster. As he held on to that feeling of defiant hope, a tiny, brilliant spark shot up from the clearing and settled in the sky, becoming the first star. Rena remembered a terrible storm that had swept through Willowwish Wood. A flock of small, frightened birds had been lost, and she had spent the entire night guiding them, one by one, to the shelter of a thick-trunked pine. She hadn't done it for praise, but simply because they needed help. As she embraced that memory of pure kindness, another bright light ascended, joining the first. Max thought of his greatest failure, a flying machine that had crashed spectacularly. He remembered the sting of embarrassment, but then he remembered what came after, picking up the pieces, sketching a new design, and starting all over again. He embraced the feeling of resilience, of trying again even after falling. The shadow in the clearing trembled as a third, then a fourth star returned to the sky. Finn recalled the night he had stood between a snarling badger and a lost rabbit kit. His every instinct had screamed at him to run, to save himself. But he remembered the look in the kit's eyes and chose to be brave instead. He let the memory of his fear wash over him, followed by the warmth of his courage. As he did, the formless shadow shrank, its power weakening as a whole constellation blazed back to life. Finally, it was Lily's turn. She didn't focus on a single memory. Instead, she closed her eyes and listened. She listened to the hum of the earth, the whisper of the trees, the heartbeat of the forest itself. She remembered that she was part of it all, connected to every leaf, every stone, and every creature. Her blue quills erupted in a gentle, radiant light that spread through the clearing, not fighting the darkness, but filling it with warmth and belonging. In that moment, the sky exploded with light. The moon returned, soft and silver, and the stars poured back into their places, twinkling with more brilliance than ever before. The shadow, starved of its diet of forgotten things, dissolved completely, like morning mist touched by the sun. A collective sigh of relief passed through Willowwish Wood. The crickets began their song. The leaves rustled in a gentle breeze, and the river corrected its course, sparkling under the renewed starlight. The night had remembered itself. The friends sat together in the clearing, bathed in the soft glow of the cosmos. Madame Hoots, perched on her branch, looked down at them with a warm smile. "The stars shine brightest," she said, her voice full of pride, "when we remember who we are. Not just the triumphs, but the trials. Not just the light, but the lessons we learn in the dark." And in Willowwish Wood, under a sky full of remembered dreams, the forest and its brave friends slept peacefully once more. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the wood.